Hello guys, today we are going to start checking the first topic. There is going to be some ways in which you can show agreement. We are going to study 3 of them. They are going to be the question tags, and then we are going to learn how to use so and neither. Okay, so the first part of our class has to do with question tags. What is a question tag? It is very easy. You are going to have, for example, a statement, and then attached to this statement, you are going to put a question. They are actually not real questions. They are going to be more like invitations in which you are going to invite the other person to agree with you. Okay, and normally they are going to have this format. You are going to have a statement, and then you are going to have the question tag attached to it. For example, when I say this is an excellent restaurant, isn't it? This isn't it is making the function of an invitation. You are asking the other person that is talking to you to think exactly the same as you. Okay, the same with the second example. When you say the cook prepares everything marvelously, doesn't he? It is the same. You are going to have this opinion, and you are inviting the other person to agree with that opinion. Okay, I am going to tell you how to form question tags. It is very easy actually, and you have to consider the following series of points that I am going to give you so you can form them without any problem. So the first point is that you need to consider that you need to separate the statement, the main statement or the main sentence. You need to separate them from the question tags by using a comma. Okay, you are going to have the main sentence. For example, here you have this is your book, and you are going to attach the question tag after a comma. So it is going to be this is your book, comma, and then the question tag, isn't it? Okay. The point number 2, it has to do with the subject. It doesn't matter, guys, if you have a proper name in the subject. In question tags, we are not allowed to use proper names. We are going to use only personal pronouns. So, for example, if in the main statement you have Mary, in the question tag, you need to look for the personal pronoun that corresponds to Mary. In this case, your personal pronoun is going to be she. So you have Mary isn't your sister, is she? Okay, remember that in this part, in the question tag, I am not going to use a proper name. I am going to use a personal pronoun. So the point number 3, and this is the most complicated part, the one in which normally you have more confusion about, and that was the reason that I asked you to elaborate your flashcards. Okay, so remember that we are going to respect the tense of the main statement. Okay, the tense of the main statement is going to tell you which auxiliary you are going to use in the question tag. Okay, for example, here, if you have fainted in the simple past, you are going to use the auxiliary verb of the simple past. That, in this case, is going to be didn't. How do I know that I am going to use didn't? Well, because here I'm having the past simple of the verb fainted. Okay, so that is the reason that I choose didn't she. Here, for example, you have the present simple. You have the present simple of the verb to be. So in the question tag, you are going to use the same tense. You are going to use the auxiliary verb for the simple present. Okay, so be very careful with the tenses and the auxiliaries. That, as I was telling you, this is a complicated part. Okay, another thing that is very important, if you have an affirmative statement, your question tag is going to be negative. Check this out. We have here the verb in the affirmative form, so our question is going to be made in the negative form. Okay, if you have, on the other hand, if you have the main statement in negative form, you are going to put your question tag in the affirmative form. So be very careful with this point, because as I was telling you, this is the most complicated. If you have questions about this, please don't forget to make them during our meeting on Zoom. Okay, so you are also going to have some exceptions to the points that I was describing on the other 3 points. Okay, for example, with modal verbs, you are not going to worry about the tense. Actually, here you are going to be worried about which modal verb you are using. For example, if you are using shouldn't in negative, your question tag is going to be should in affirmative. If you have I may not, in the main sentence, in the question tags, remember that you are going to make it affirmative. May I? Okay. The same with would or with any other modal verb that you can take into consideration. Okay. If you have she would invite us to the party in affirmative, you are going to have the negative question tag with the modal verb that corresponds. Remember that with modal verbs, you don't need extra auxiliary verbs because the modal verb is making that function already. Okay, so please be very careful with that one as well. So the following one is that, for example, when you are making invitations, especially with the verb let's, okay, this is an invitation, so as it is a plural, we are always going to use the same question tag. For example, you are going to have let's go to the party, you are going to ask shall we, or let's keep on working, and the same is going to be shall we. This is like the general formula for invitations. Okay, and with imperatives, remember that an imperative is when somebody else gives you an order. You are going to use these different verbs. For example, when you say pass me the salt, will you? Don't make noise, can you? Okay, or make your bed, would you? Okay, that is the thing that we are going to do, and this is the exceptions that we are going to make with this kind of statements when they are an imperative. Okay, so you have here more examples. Okay, check this out. We have here the present simple of the verb to be in affirmative, so I am going to do it here in the negative. Also, for example, we are going to have you always sleep till late on Sundays. We have present simple, so I am going to use the present simple auxiliary here in my question tag. And remember, as it is affirmative, then I am going to use a negative here. Okay, the same with this one. For example, it says Mike's mom has got long blonde hair. I am going to use this auxiliary, so I am going to use hasn't she, the one that corresponds to the present perfect. With modal verbs, remember, we are going to use the same modal verb. You can do a cartwheel, can't you? I am going to use the affirmative here, the one that corresponds to the auxiliary, that in this case is a modal verb. Okay, and finally with this one, I want you to check this one because it is also an exception. Okay, when you have, for example, the verb to be for the first person of the singular, you are not going to use am not I, you are going to use aren't I, and this is going to be another exception. Okay, so please be very careful with those ones. So we are going to continue now with the explanation about so and either. It is also to show agreement. So guys, you are going to use so when you want to express positive agreement, and you are going to use it with this formula. You are going to write so, the auxiliary that corresponds to the tense, and the subject that you are using. Here, for example, with the subject, you can use proper names. That it is the difference that we make with the question tags, for example, but here you can use a subject without any problem. Okay, so for example, when somebody tells you I'm happy, you can say so am I, because you are showing this kind of positive agreement. Okay, here I am going to show you a little chart in which you can have like the examples that you can have in all of the tenses that we have studied. For example, when you have Johnny is a student, you are going to say, so am I. And the meaning of this is that you too, that you feel, you think the same. Okay, remember that if we have the present simple verb to be here, I am going to have the simple present verb to be here as well. Remember that I need to change it in correspondence to the subject that I am using. Okay, if I say, for example, my mother cleans the house, I want to say that I do too, so I am going to use so do I. Okay, so this is going to be my positive agreement. The same with this one. For example, you have Tom was a pilot. If it is true for you, you're going to say so was I. So this is a form, and you have here examples for all the tenses. This is a form in which you are going to use so. Okay. On the other hand, if you are going to express a negative agreement, you are going to use neither. Remember that so, for example, so is going to be translated as yo también, and neither is going to be translated as yo tampoco. So it is agreement, but in a negative way. Okay, so for example, when you say I am not happy, you can say neither am I, and this means that you are having the same negative opinion. Okay, and as you can check, the formula is very similar with neither and so. In both of them, you are going to use the word, then an auxiliary, and then a subject. Again, remember that you can use proper names. There is no problem if you use them. So this is, for example, this is the examples that you're going to have. For example, when you say I didn't like it, neither did I, because it is the past, you are going to use here an auxiliary for the past. Then it says I won't stay long, you are going to say neither will I if you want to show negative agreement. So remember that we have here, for example, the negative form of will. You are going to agree with neither and will in simple form. Okay, and then I have never been drunk. You are going to say, for example, neither have I, because this is the auxiliary of the present perfect. So remember that we need to respect the auxiliaries, and that is the most complicated part. But I hope that you don't have any problem with this kind of sentences. Okay, for example, here we have an exercise for showing you more examples. You have, for example, Peter lives in New York, so you want to agree in a positive way. You want to say that his best friend too, so you are going to express it as follows. It says, so does his best friend. Okay, best friend. Then you have the following statement. Judy is fond of horse riding. You want to say that you too, so you are going to use so am I. Okay, remember the formula, so auxiliary and subject. And with negative form, okay, you can say, for example, I can play the guitar. You want to say that your sister can do it too. Okay, so you are going to say neither can my sister. Again, neither auxiliary subject. And the following one, it is exactly the same. We haven't got a pet at home. And you want to say that your best friend too. It is the same for your best friend. So you are going to use neither has my best friend. Here remember that I am using has because here I have a third person as my subject. So be very careful with those ones, guys. I hope that you don't have any further complication. Remember that you can watch this class as much as you need. Just be sure that you write your questions so you can ask me during our Zoom meeting next week. So please watch it carefully, pay attention to your auxiliaries that, as I was telling you, is the most difficult part. And if you have any problem, we are going to discuss it in our following Zoom meeting. Okay, so have a nice week, and I'll see you next week on our meeting.